is easily solved if you can think across generations. So that requires a certain degree of consciousness, intelligence, and imagination. If you don't commit to those ideas, then you're gonna end up wasting time because you're gonna work your butt off and make a bunch of money, and then it's all gonna disappear after you're gone. And your kids and grandkids will just have to start all over again, and then they'll be mad because they'll feel like you didn't do anything to help them get ready for the world. So if you look at the statistics, 70% of all families lose their wealth in one generation, 90% lose all their wealth within two generations. So the thieves are typically your children. So if you have money that you're leaving to kids, I'm not a big fan of the idea of giving them a big lump of money and then saying, okay, do whatever you want. Because what's going to happen is that your 22-year-old daughter is going to fall in love and give all her money to her boyfriend or something, or your son's gonna take all the money and go buy fancy cars and stuff like that, and expensive hotel rooms, and with women in bikinis, and then the money will disappear. So things like trust, which is beyond the scope of this class, but I encourage you to look into that. Trust it's a vehicle that's typically used to protect that wealth. Now, how do families lose their wealth? Taxes, number one. A lot of the IRS, Uncle Sam is always a beneficiary in your will. They are the relative, they are the cousin that you didn't know about that shows up and says that they want half the money. And basically, if you look, for example, at wealthy people, wealthy examples like Prince, the singer Prince, I'm going to guess Prince gave at least $100 million to the IRS, to accountants and attorneys and all the people that had to clean up his estate because he didn't properly plan for his death. Lazy, unfocused kids with no financial skill. Most wealthy families that preserve their wealth make sure that they have requirements that their children get some type of financial literacy training. So you can actually put something in your trust where you just say, you can't get this money unless you have a certain level of education in economics, and maybe you've taken a couple classes, read a couple books, whatever. Shaquille O'Neal, I think he told his children that they can only get his money if they get MBAs and advanced degrees. So his saying is, if you don't get the degrees, you won't get the cheese. Not that people use the word cheese anymore. Maybe it's changed to something else. I don't know. A very poor succession plan. So not thinking about what's going to happen after you're gone is a big problem. A lot of us, because we're hoping to stay alive, we think that not thinking about death and not planning for death is a way to live longer. And just in case you're wondering, it doesn't work. We're all going to die. So once we accept the fact that we're all going to die, then that's when you truly get a chance to live. The best way to live is to leave a good inheritance, and that way you live forever. Your legacy lives. And so I want to talk next about a concept called economic immaturity. Now, economic immaturity is something that isn't really covered. I've never seen any financial book anywhere that covers that concept. Economic immaturity is something that strictly came out of my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. And economic immaturity, I believe, is a huge, huge problem in our community as well as other communities. We're not the only community that has this issue, but we have it pretty bad. And what economic immaturity kind of speaks to is a lack of vision, a lack of consciousness as it pertains to wealth. Children are not very conscious. Children don't have a big vision. Children are typically thinking about, whether or not I'm gonna get ice cream after church, or, am I gonna get the new shoes that I want? Or is mama gonna find out that I took the cookie out of the cookie jar? They're not thinking about big picture stuff. They're not thinking about a long-term financial plan. They're not wondering what's gonna happen at retirement. They're not wondering, how certain bills are going to get paid. They don't think that way, right? So economic immaturity is, to some extent, this scenario, which is pretty prominent, unfortunately. It's heavily encouraged through things like hip hop music, and it's this basic idea that you don't have a lot of vision when it comes to your wealth. You're not thinking about constructive uses for your wealth. You're thinking about silly things, immature things. So economic immaturity, let me lay this out for you as a concept. And in fact, and actually, if you want to get these study guides and everything else, you can go to drboycebooks.com, search for the word study guide, and you can find it there. All right. So economic immaturity is this. If you ask a 5-year-old and you say, what would you do with money? What do you do with money? I tried this out yesterday with my 5-year-old niece. So I said, Amina, I said, do you know what money is? She said, yeah. I said, so what do you do with money? What do you think she said? I'm gonna let y'all answer. She said, spend it. That was the first thing she said, spend it, right? That's what 5-year-olds say. And I said, spend it on what? And she said, toys and candy and right. That's what children say. Well, you have a lot of adults that are economically immature. You have a lot of grown-ups where if you say, hey, you just won $10,000 on a game show, what are you going to do with the money? Either some people will actually go a step further and say, I'm gonna pay bills. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. That's a little more mature than what you might see with a lot of people. I saw one guy on a show, a BET show, BET, that wonderful show that really contributes so positively to Black culture, owned by white people. And the show was called Blew the Bag. And on this show, Blew the Bag, they would literally, it was a financial show, but it was financially destructive because what they did was they made comedy out of Black people, particularly Black men who had lots of money and threw it all away, who blew the bag. And so as they're laughing and making fun of blowing your generational wealth, blowing your family's money, putting your children in poverty, making sure your family stays miserable. There was this one guy on there who he sat there and he said he won his lottery hit. He bought a lottery ticket, and the lottery ticket was he won about I want to say about $250,000. Now this man, and again, if you want to know, I'm sorry, I did this type of thinking, it bothers me a lot because I connect with the pain that children feel when their father is a piece of crap, because my father was a piece of crap. And so honestly, if you want to know my personal bias, it is when a man does not take responsibility for his family on some level, when he's not doing at least doing his best. I don't it's not that I'm mad at him. I'm really mad at the world for training him to think that way. So this guy who had about 6 kids with a bunch of women, because he loved the sex but didn't love the responsibility. He took all the money because again he had a pleasure-seeking mentality, and they said, so what did you do with the money? He said, I went to an expensive hotel where the rooms were $1,000 a night. I bought the whole floor, and I had strippers and bottles of whatever and all this other stuff. So I want to ask y'all this question. Where do you think that he got that from? Where do you what marketing, like who gave him that message to think that if you win the lottery and this is your chance to get out of poverty, this is your chance to set your kids up, this is your chance to change your whole life and the lives of others. What do you think happened to make him believe that this was the best use of his money? It was the media. It was that BS on BET. It was the stuff that we call the culture. It was rapper culture. He was basically imitating the rappers. He didn't grow up aspiring. Remember, in the 1960s, when NASA went to the moon, a lot of young kids wanted to be astronauts. They emulated astronauts. They wanted to be Buzz Aldrin and these other people, Neil Armstrong. So when you're seeing rappers, the Lil Wayne's, who's clearly mentally ill, he's a smart man, but he's mentally ill. He's been through a lot. He shot himself in the chest when he was 12, and he's got tattoos all over his face and his body. My wife says that those are signs that doing stuff like that are signs of mental distress. So you're looking up to mentally ill people, my heart goes out to them. I'm not saying this to be critical. I'm just saying this to be factual. And so you've literally got a whole tribe of millions of men looking up to men who need a therapist, men who are clearly dysfunctional, clearly met. R. Kelly was a role model at one point. Diddy was looked up to at one point. Diddy was the biggest participant in Vote or Die and all this stuff. Remember, he was doing all the political stuff. So, and why was that? Well, for the same reason that the candidates had an event this weekend and they brought in Lizzo and some other people, you know, as he's become the influencers of the culture. So what you need to understand is that this is a trickle-down effect. Trickle-down economics did not work. Trickle-down economics in the 1980s that Reagan implemented or believed that wealthy people would trickle wealth down to poor people, that did not work. But trickle-down culture definitely works. So when you are trying to look at the direction of the culture, you just look at the direction of the leaders of the culture. The leaders of the culture are not people like myself. I really want Black families to be healthy. I want Black people to be wealthy. I want us to be connected. I want us to succeed. I'm not a leader in the culture on that level. I'm not as much of a leader in the culture as, say, a guy like the rapper 50 Cent. And I have nothing against 50 Cent. I think he's a very smart man, but I had about 500,000 or 600,000 followers on Instagram before they killed my account, I guess, because I'm so dangerous or something. I have no idea. And he has 31 million. So it's a much bigger platform. And I was watching 50 Cent's content, which is very entertaining, by the way. He's very funny. Lots of black men are funny. We're just hilarious. We're just such great comic relief for the world. And we love to laugh. Like, laughing is how we cope with trauma and pain, right? It's the dopamine release. We need that. But then also I see very toxic energy, very toxic behavior, and coming from a man who's mentally ill and disturbed. I see you don't see around this guy successful family building. You don't see successful relationship building. You see lots of pettiness, lots of immaturity, lots of stuff that's funny, but it's very petty, right? But and what's interesting, the only thing that you see, that makes so many people want to follow that is money, right? Money can misguide you into a culture that is fundamentally unhealthy. So if you stripped away the money, if you took, say, a rapper like 50 Cent and you took away all his money, and let's say you took away his TV show, when you look at it at the core, he does not have a good life. His children hate him. He's fighting with his baby's mamas online. I think one of them was accused of being a sex worker for Diddy or something. So now he's going back and forth and saying, "Ha ha, you little sex worker," and people think it's hilarious and it's funny, and it is kind of funny. I mean, it's funny. It's fun to watch. We all have an appetite for dramatic BS. But I want us to take a moment and kind of reflect on that and what that really says about our culture. And imagine if you were an alien or a person from another country or a person who was watching this from the outside, trying to understand African Americans and who they listen to. You would probably not have a lot of respect for Black people. You would say, wow, this whole culture is full of 45-year-old children. Because when you have men and women that get in a position where they can take important leadership positions in the community and do better work and really elevate the status of the community, they don't do that. They use their 31 million followers to talk about how much they hate their baby's mama, right? And so I kind of want us to sort of process that, because when I saw this guy sitting there and bragging about how he took his family's opportunity of generational wealth. Remember, the word poor stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. He took his family's opportunity for generational wealth. He blew it on hotel rooms, liquor, and strippers. That is him imitating his role models. He's probably following 50 Cent's Instagram page. Like, this is what we do as Black men. We don't plan, we don't prepare, we don't invest, we don't succeed, we don't have maturity, we don't have discipline. We just do whatever we want and let the consequences fall, and then the world feels sorry for us because we're so freaking pathetic. Did you know I saw this? I put this I like to put stuff up on my Instagram just to kind of give us conversation points. So I shared this video of these Black men from England who literally gave really honest commentary about their view of the African American community. A lot of people got really offended. I didn't get offended. I just took it in as data and information. I'm actually going to play this because since we're talking about culture, I think that if you can look at this from an objective standpoint instead of just getting mad, because sometimes people just get mad, like, how dare you say something negative about me? It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's just, how dare you say something bad? You're supposed to only say good things all the time, and that's it. I don't agree with that. I think that sometimes you can learn about yourself by looking at what people say. So let me see if I can play this video. I think it's worth looking at. I'm gonna try to pull it up. This thing is moving a little bit slow, so give me 1 second here. Okay. And it was interesting because it was a bunch of guys. I don't know if they're from England or what, but they sounded kind of British. Oh man, come on. Let me push this back. Okay, I'll try to pull it up. This thing is twirling and moving slow and not doing what it's supposed to do. But anyway, so what the guy was saying was, he started off by saying African Americans are the worst. And I was like, we're the worst? Like, what are you talking about? And he said that, here we go. Yeah. Well, I think that he started off with a negative tone, because I think he started off by saying Black Americans, I hate them the most. I don't like that, right? You don't have to say it that way, man. Come on. But if you can put that part to the side, here, I'm going to play this, and I want you to let me know if you can hear this, because I think it's worth looking at. So give me a second here. All right, let me see if I can do this properly. All right, here we go.
Americans hate them the most. If you make a list of like the best Black people, a lot of them are African Americans.
Yeah.
But if you make a list of the worst black people, the African Americans, like they hold us back, will bring us forward. Like 10 steps forward, 10 steps back.
They got Martin Luther King,
but then they got Sexy Red.
I mean,
it's not just black Americans, it's just Americans in general are just stupid.
Now, if there was like a country that wasn't on Earth, it would be America. Like, I honestly believe that people, when you go to America, you leave the planet. Like, they'll be surprised that like flipping
black people here.
Russia and Germany are not next to each other. They're like, everything Europe is just one road.
Literally, imagine, I'm in Europe, like, oh yeah, I got a cousin in Europe. Where's he from?
Like,
from Luxembourg. We're not in the same Europe.
What I'm saying, but they're like, yeah, man, I'm coming to Europe, man. Let's meet. Let's link up, man. I'm coming to Europe, man. They arrive, they call me. Where are you, man? I'm like, yo, bro, I'm in Manchester. Where are you? Yeah, man, I'm in Sweden right now. Over there, yeah, like they're convinced that whatever's happening there,
that's right.
Like that's it.
That's what's meant to be.
They don't know life outside of America.
I hate the most is black Americans. I hate them the most.
If you make a list,
I'm gonna play this one more time because you might have missed it. So let me play it again.
of like the best black people, a lot of them are African Americans.
Yeah.
But if you make a list of the worst black people, the African Americans, like they hold us back, will bring us forward. Like 10 steps forward, 10 steps back.
They got Martin Luther King,
but then they got Sexy Red.
It's
not just black Americans, it's just Americans in general are just stupid.
Now, if there was like a country that wasn't on Earth, it would be America. Like, I honestly believe that people, when you go to America, you leave the planet. Like, they'll be surprised that like flipping Russia and Germany are not next to each other. They're like, everything Europe is just one road.
Literally, imagine, I'm in Europe, like, oh yeah, I got a cousin in Europe. Where's he from?
Like,
from we're not in the same Europe.
What I'm saying, but they're like, yeah, man, I'm coming to Europe, man. Let's meet.
Okay, so here's what I saw in this video, right? I get it. I understand if it, I mean, first of all, black people in England are not perfect either, right? They're not, right? We know that imperfections exist everywhere. Also, we know that their portrayal of Americans and African Americans doesn't apply to everybody. But let's look at this. Let's take a step back and really look at this in a bigger picture standpoint. I didn't have a problem with a lot of what they said because honestly, from where I'm standing, a lot of what they said is very, very true, especially based on the way you are portrayed around the world. The best of black people, when he said, African Americans can give you a Martin Luther King, but they can also give you a Sexy Red. Now, I want you to take a moment though and consider this fact. Black people did not give the world Martin Luther King and Sexy Red. White media gave the world Martin Luther King and Sexy Red. If they never put Martin Luther King on TV, they wouldn't know who he is. Not that Martin Luther King, I have no problem with the way he represents the black community. But if Martin Luther King did not have media coverage, no one would know who he is. Remember, because at the same time you had Dr. King, you also had Dr. Claude Anderson. You had a lot of people around in that era who would have been great on TV. So those who control media and control capital are the ones who control your image. Now, you look at Sexy Red. If you don't know who she is, just imagine the most embarrassing female rapper imaginable. Just imagine the nastiest things that women can say and do, and then just put that person on stage. That's what Sexy Red represents. Black people did not give the world Sexy Red. Black people did not decide, that this is going to be our representative. Somebody else did. Somebody else that controls media made that decision. So that's the first thing I would probably say to those guys is, you're not looking at African Americans, you're looking at white media's representation of African Americans. And this creates a challenge for all of us because everywhere you go, people see you through the lens of this media that portrays you in a specific way. The second thing that they mentioned, though, when they said Americans are just kind of stupid and they think that nothing else matters except for what happens in America, that is actually kind of true. And let me tell you an example of when I first observed this. In 2006, I was in Germany for 6 weeks, and I was doing a stint with the Center for European Economic Research. And every day on TV, on CNN, there was another one of these crazy wars between the Israelis and the Palestinians. The Palestinians had killed 3 Israeli soldiers. The Israelis came back like they did just recently, and they killed thousands of Palestinians. And I remember I was just kind of getting introduced to all this, and I said, how in the hell do they think it's okay to kill 1,000 people on one side when they only killed 3 of yours? Like, what's going on here? So I became kind of caught up in it, and I was watching, I would see it every day. It was nonstop on CNN. I came back to the United States, and I was talking to one of my friends. I said, did you see that war? That's crazy what's going on in the Middle East. And they said, what war? What are you talking about? And none of my friends knew anything about this war. And that's when I found out that CNN was showing different content to people in Europe that they were showing to Americans. They dumb us down. Like I saw another time where there was, I don't know if it was Time Magazine or People or whatever, and they showed all the covers that they were showing around the world. It was some sort of serious political issue. And then when it came to the US, it was like Kim Kardashian on the cover or something, right? So Americans are, I don't think by any fault of your own, we are kind of educationally challenged. If you go to other schools, like if you go to schools in Europe, like I remember when I was in Germany, this also happened. I was in line at Subway, and the guy that was taking the order, I saw him speak German to the person that was ordering his food. The guy starts speaking Italian. So the Subway worker instantly starts speaking Italian to talk to him. And then I get up and he starts talking to me in German. I say I don't speak German. He starts talking in English. And I thought about that and I said, man, this is a Subway worker who speaks 3 languages at least. Maybe he has others. I don't know, but I just saw 3 right in front of me. How often in America do you see a Subway worker that speaks 3 languages? Very rare. You don't see that, right? So if you look at what's going on in our schools, how many of our kids graduate and can't hardly read, and just that ignorance. I don't know who does it or why. I think maybe ignorant citizens make capitalism work a little bit better because your government is a capitalist government. The capitalists control your government. So really, the number one goal is to get you to get up and go to work every day, to get you to eat whatever crappy food they put in front of you, and then also to make sure that they keep your families dismantled just enough so that you and your wife feel like you both have to go to work, so that your kids are going to be under the control of the state when they go to school. I sound like a conspiracy theorist when I say that, but I do believe that. I believe that capitalism doesn't benefit when you have educated citizens and strong families, because educated people do things like they go out and they say, don't ever eat at McDonald's because look at all the chemicals that are in the food, or don't go to work every day with the corporation because why would you want to spend all this time at your job and not with your own family, right? Or what if you have mothers who say, I really going to work would be okay, but I'd rather spend time with my kids because my kids will be better off if they're with their mother. They don't want that, right? So a lot of even social movements have been manipulated by corporate America to serve a certain purpose. I specifically can point to when they wanted more women to buy cigarettes because they sold as many as they could to the men, and they needed women to feel like it was okay to buy cigarettes. So one of the marketing people was connected to Sigmund Freud. He was related to him, and he said, "My uncle Sigmund has done a lot of research on psychology and phallic symbols and things like that." So what they did was somehow in the marketing they equated the cigarettes, the women taking the cigarette was like taking away the man's penis, and the man's penis is his power. So when you're taking away their penis and putting that cigarette in your mouth, you are pretty much taking away his power. So before long, what they had was they had these rallies, these feminist rallies, where women would get on there and they would start smoking cigarettes as a sign of defiance, and that would had achieved their goal of getting more women to smoke cigarettes. And if you ask me, do I think that these things have happened? Yeah, absolutely, because that's what capitalism does. So I don't think I can get it if anybody was offended by what those guys said, but I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen all these things. Americans don't really know what's happening around the world. We think that we're the most important people on the planet. We don't have a lot. Our educational system is absolutely horrible. I can have conversations with people from Europe who are just regular people, not high level, not professors, nothing, and I'll start talking about things like maybe high level biology or the origins of the universe or whatever, and they'll know all this stuff. They learned all this stuff in school. A lot of Americans, I mean, you know, some of our kids can't even. I talked to one young lady who was 28 and she went to a really bad public school, and I was explaining business to her, and I remember I said, so if you do a business partnership with somebody, and let's say that you set up a deal where you get 10% of the money, if the deal makes $1,000, how much do you get? And she paused. She didn't say anything, um, back to me. And I said, did you hear my question? Because I thought maybe she didn't hear me. I said, so if you get 10% and the deal makes $1,000, how much of that money do you get? And she said something like 250. And so her answer, I was very disturbed. I was so disturbed that I just froze. I didn't know what to say. Normally I'm like, oh, don't worry, it's okay. Let's do it again. I freaked out. I was like, oh my God. Like, because 10%, where do you get 250 from 10%? Of a doubt, so it really said to me that nobody even taught her the basics of math. And so my question as a parent, as a human being, is to say, what were you doing in school all day? What were they doing with you? They had you for 7, 8 hours a day, every day. You could teach a lot in that amount of time. What were you learning? If you want to know what I believe we should be educating our own kids. I really do. I think that these school systems are really damaging. It makes it much, much harder for us to do our jobs later on. Even as a college professor, kids would get to college and not be ready with even the basics. And I personally think that educating your own, if you can, even after they come home from school, is the best way to go. So let's dig back into economic maturity really quick. So if you ask a 5-year-old, what do you do with money? They're going to say, oh, I'm going to buy toys, I'm going to buy shoes, I'm going to buy candy. These are the little things that they would end up saying. That's economic immaturity. So you have the grown version of economic immaturity where somebody gets money, like that guy on that BET show blew the bag, and he says, oh, I got $250,000 and I spent it on strippers and liquor and whatever, right? So in hotel rooms. So that's his equivalent. That's his grown version of toys and candy, right? Just the toys change as you get older. So effectively, money, what can money be used for? And this was the conversation I had with my niece who's 5 years old, when she told me that money's used for toys and candy. I said, well, here's some other things you can do with money. Money can be used as a capital base. Capital base, we've talked about that. A capital base is a bunch of resources that you have available that gives you financial security. If you have land or crops or cows or dollar bills, all these things protect you so that if you lose your job, you're not freaking out, you're not going crazy, you're not having anxiety, you have security, you have protection. So ultimately, a capital base is the most important thing a person can have. A capital base is more important than a college degree. A capital base is more important than a good job. A capital base is more important than a good credit score. If you give yourself a capital base, you are going to typically be okay. If your children have a capital base, they're going to be okay. So what you do is you start building the capital base very, very early with things like the $5 a day investing plan, so that by the time your child hits the ground running and they start competing economically, they have, $100,000, $200,000 in liquid assets they can get access to, which means that they will never have to work for anybody. What does that mean? Never working for anybody in your life means you are now free to enjoy your life. You are now out of prison. You are not a capitalist slave. You don't have to go and serve massa every day just to pay the bills. You can actually find your purpose. You can actually pursue God's plan and not massa's plan, right? So let's keep going. It can also be used for saving. We talked about that, saving your money. You can invest your money. You can do philanthropy. You can give money to other people. You can do the best charity on earth can be done when you have access to resources. I don't know who in the hell decided that anybody who wants to be an activist in the Black community had to be broke. There's nothing about being broke that makes you a better person. There's nothing about being broke that makes you more righteous. Nothing about being broke that's going to make you more effective. It just doesn't. It doesn't. So this idea that we think somehow a Black person who's making money is automatically evil is just a flawed line of thinking. Evil people tend to be people that are financially desperate. If you are financially desperate, that's going to bring the evil out of you and cause you to do evil things. If you're financially secure, then you have the space to say, I'm going to make decisions based on what my values are and not based on where the money resides. Do you understand? So ultimately, it is a false notion. It is nonsense that we believe that a person that is trying to benefit the community has to be broke in order to do that. If you're broke, you can't really help anybody because you're trying to survive yourself. You're in the water you're barely swimming. How are you going to save anybody when you are this close to drowning? It's very, very difficult to do. So what I want your children to be in a position where they have a surplus. People who have a surplus then have the opportunity to build a capital base. People who have a capital base and a surplus then can say, I'm doing good. Me and my family are fine. We have what we need. Now let's go help the others. Now let's go save everyone else. Harriet Tubman had to get off the plantation in order for her to go free other slaves. Harriet Tubman could not have freed a soul if she had never freed herself. So in order for you to free other people, you got to free yourself, and you got to create a culture of freedom within your family so that your children will be free. When your children are free and your children also know the roadmap to freedom, then they can go share that roadmap with other people and help them get there. I could not serve you in the way that I'm trying to serve you if I was not free myself. If I was like, well, you know what? I want to do Money in the Morning with y'all, but I can't because I got to go to work, y'all. I got to get to work because I got to pay bills up in here. If that was my life, then I couldn't be here talking to you. I'm really doing my best to try to share all the stuff I learned from my PhD so that I can get something out of this freaking thing. It was terrible. It was really the hardest thing ever. It was very painful to get a doctorate. It was just depressingly difficult. And so I'm like, well, the way I can get max ROI is if I share as much as possible with as many people as possible, so that if I die tomorrow, get hit by a milk truck, I'll know that somebody benefited from all the hell that I went through in order to understand the roadmap to economic freedom, right? That's, to me, that is what my goal is. It's like, okay, I want to do kind of a little bit of what Harriet did, because a lot of us are stuck. A lot of us feel stuck in our lives. You go to work at this job that you hate. You ain't got the money that you want. You want to do stuff for your kids. You can't do it. It's a terrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling. I don't want that to continue. Not for you, but also remember this too. I want you to keep always thinking about the next generation, because the more you can visualize the future, the more you can prepare for it, right? It's hard to prepare for something that you can't see, right? So a lot of times these meditations where you meditate on where your child's going to be 20 years from now. You meditate on what the grandkids are going to look like when they're 35, right? You meditate on what's their day-to-day life like. A good fun meditation might be to take your 10-year-old daughter and imagine her as a 35-year-old woman, and imagine what her life will be like throughout the day, and what do you want that to look like? If you can do that, if you can put your brain 25 years into the future, leave the year 2024, go to the year 2049, imagine your 10-year-old daughter as a 35-year-old, and imagine what she's going to be thinking about. What kind of life do you want her to have? What's she going to be feeling? What's she going to be? Well, she's probably going to be thinking about her boyfriend or husband, hopefully a husband, whatever. She's going to maybe have some kids that she's going to have to figure out how to feed. She's going to maybe have some way of making money. You hope that she's not a ditty sex worker. You want her to be somebody who's financially secure, right? And then you want her to be happy and mentally healthy, right? So how do you participate in terraforming that situation? How do you create that scenario for her? Well, you know what? You got 25 years to get ready. You got 25 years to get ready. And remember, what have I always said that is the most valuable asset in the universe? It ain't money. That's the hint. It ain't money. What have I always said? Well, what is the most valuable asset? When I do the financial equations and we figure out what makes money grow, it's time. Time. See, some of y'all mentioned family and capital base. Those are important too. But when it comes to money and the growth of money, time actually matters more than anything. Time dominates. Time is like the Shaquille O'Neal of the financial equations. It just dominates the whole equation. It kind of drives everything. So you have 25 years to get ready for what you want your daughter's life to be when she's 35 years old. Get to stepping. To start it ain't nothing big. It's not big stuff you got to do. It's like, okay, let me go ahead and let me go ahead and get on that $5 a day program Dr. Boyce was talking about, so I can make sure the grandbabies are good, right? Whatever, right? So you get on your little app, punch a couple buttons, automatically deposit $35 a week or $140 a month into an investment account, so that by the time that daughter is 35 years old, she's sitting on a couple $100,000, which is going to really make her life wonderful and really create a great legacy for you. And you are a great team. That makes you a great teammate, right? That makes you the person to help the team win. You know, if your kids and your grandkids are struggling, that says something about a lack of preparation on your part. That says that we didn't do what we're supposed to do. So just keep that in mind. Again, I don't want to make you feel bad, put too much pressure on you, but it's true. Okay. All right. So one thing I want to remind you of is, don't forget, on the 1st, we're doing the event on how to storm-proof your portfolio and kind of get ready for for what I think is an economic decline. Not so much a recession, but really I think that the stock market is ripe for a decline. In case you don't know, this last quarter was a huge quarter for the stock market. I think it's the best quarter for the S&P since 2019. So what goes up tends to come down. So so on Monday on the 1st at 8 p.m. I'm gonna go through some steps on how you can storm-proof your portfolio and kind of get ready for the coming storm. Secondly, I want to remind everybody that we're going to do on Wednesday night the world premiere of our new film called B1 the Movie. And it's a great movie, and I know you're going to love it. And you can actually get it for free by being a member of the book club, which again, the book club is free. And we do this every Wednesday night at 8:30. We read Dr. Claude Anderson books. We've been doing this since I don't know when we even started, probably 2018. And so will there be a recording? Yes, but the recordings are not free, Michael. If you go to drboycebookclub.com, that's where all the recordings are. So there is a fee, but it's got hundreds and hundreds of pieces of content in there. So feel free to go to drboycebookclub.com if you'd like to get the recording. But if you show up live, you can actually watch the film for free. So there's the link. And also with that link, you can get free access to my life class. I have something called the Dr. Boyce Life Class that you can go take a look at. And also, last but not least, don't forget, if you want to get reminders of when we do Money in the Morning, we do this every single morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, where we talk about financial consciousness and just increase our awareness economically, then feel free to text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. So feel free to do that. Let's see. Cheryl says, can you extend the discount for the April 1st lecture? Well, unfortunately, Cheryl, the discount is that already passed. That was a 48-hour discount. But email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. And if your finances are strained, and I think the fee is $89 to get access to everything for life. All the materials are yours for life. So it's not like these, $3,000, $4,000 classes that people have out here. That's way too much. But we have to charge some fee in the Black Business School so that we can pay our operational expenses. And so for $89, you can bring all your relatives under one membership, and everything is yours for life. And you get a study guide to go with it, all the slides in the recording. So you can take a look at that link. And also, if you are under financial hardship, just email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. Tell them that I said that that I want them to help you in any way that they can and work with you as much as possible, because we're not trying to just suck all the money out of your pocket. That's not the goal. The goal, though, is that we need money in order to build a university. That's what we built. That's what we're doing. We're getting it done. We are just as important, just as good. We're better actually at what we do than Harvard and Yale. We just operate on a budget that's literally 1/10,000th of their budget, but that's okay because we're smarter than they are anyway. So have a good day, guys. God bless you. It's great to see you. I will see you all tomorrow morning, and take care. Talk to you soon.